You're a YouTuber, you're a DJ, fashion, everything.
As far back as I can remember, since, some of my earliest memories are having OCD tendencies that really affected my life as a child. I didn't get diagnosed until my late 20s. Getting that diagnosis, oh my gosh, when I got off the Zoom call with my psychiatrist, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like it was a weight off my shoulders. I wake up every day and I have to battle my OCD. I'm not gonna stop DJing because of that, because I'm my drive to put on a good show and be the best version of myself is bigger than the trigger. So I'm able to be okay, I'm gonna lock in. There's nothing wrong with being a little different. And OCD it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. There's some beauty in it. And I think just recognizing that you're a special person and you've got special ways of getting things done, and just realizing that life needs to be approached a little bit differently, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing or a bad way to live.
You've probably heard of OCD, but you don't know that OCD isn't really just about cleaning and organization. It's actually debilitating. It's a condition that causes intrusive, persistent, and really sticky feelings and thoughts that can seize on any topic, from romantic relationships to illness to spirituality, and really anything that matters to you. This can really cause significant anxiety and guilt and shame and discomfort, and can make it hard to function in day-to-day life. If this sounds familiar, know that you're not alone. In fact, 1 in 40 people in the US suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder. But help is available. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist with 25 years of OCD treatment experience, so I know that these scary symptoms can be overwhelming, but I also know that they can be managed with the right type of treatment. I lead a team of top-tier clinical experts at NOCD who are trained in the effective treatment for obsessive compulsive disorder. NOCD is an online platform offering specialized, accessible, and convenient OCD treatment. My team and I have helped people take back their lives from OCD through evidence-based therapies that are covered by insurance. To learn more about OCD and to start effective treatment, head to NOCD.com. That's NOCD.com. You deserve to live the life you want to live, and not the life that OCD wants you to live. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on our latest podcasts and webinars. Now, on to today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of the Get to Know OCD podcast. And I'm thrilled today to have Ava Gutowski here with me. You're a YouTuber, you're a DJ, fashion, everything. Tell us about you and who you are.
Well, I feel like for most people that know me, they know me by My Life as Ava, which is my YouTube channel name. And
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I'm just a normal person. I started my YouTube channel freshman year of college, and I was in school for journalism at the time. And I literally just wanted to get better at public speaking. That's kind of why I started a YouTube channel. And it wasn't, at the time, it was a time where the landscape of influencing and YouTubing and all of that was really different, where I just feel like there weren't a lot of benefits to it in the sense of fame or money. It was kind of you had to do it just because you loved it. And I just fell in love with it and kept doing that for the last over 10 years. And now I'm still My Life as Ava, but in a new era. But it's cool to have the people that subscribed to me, 12 years ago as a freshman in college to still be, seeing me grow and seeing me move from my home state and move to New York City and get a golden retriever and live this crazy life that we're all living. But mine is online. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Well, hello to the 12-year subscribers watching this today as well. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it very much. In addition to all of this, you've been very open about being diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder and ADHD. And I'm wondering if you could maybe give people that side of you and understand that part of your life and your journey.
Yeah. So it was kind of an interesting journey in the sense that I didn't get diagnosed until my late 20s. I had always struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder, but I had no idea how to identify it. And I didn't even recognize that it was something neurodivergent in my everyday life. But as far back as I can remember, since, some of my earliest memories are having OCD tendencies that really affected my life as a child. Some that sound completely ridiculous, and that gave me a lot of like a lot of mental struggles as a kid, because I was dealing with these things, these inner thoughts that sounded so silly to talk to someone about. And if I did, everyone would laugh at me because it was sometimes the most ridiculous things. So I just started keeping it to myself. And, for the majority of my life, I had struggled with ADHD, but also OCD. And so the reason how it came, the way that it came about getting diagnosed was I had worked on an interior design project in Palm Springs. And I was, when I do something, I put every single thing into it because I become obsessed with it. And it's to a crazy point where, like, I'll make myself sick. It's not a good habit to have. But if I become obsessed with something, then I want to do it to the best of my ability. And so I was working on this interior design project, and I was just putting everything into it. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't taking care of myself because I just cared so much about the project. And my boyfriend, he's Norwegian, and he had moved in to the house with me to help me work on the interior design project. And I started getting super, super upset about, like, if he would leave like a drawer open, or like a towel in the bathroom the wrong way or something. And I started just going so crazy. And it was this really weird feeling where it was like, I had suddenly had this self-realization where I was like, I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of, not being able to control why I'm so upset over something. It was really affecting me. It wasn't really, he didn't really mind, but it was bothering me how bothered I would get at little
Sure.
things like that. And I realized that this feeling, it felt neurotypical. It didn't feel like I could really control it. And it's a weird feeling to feel that way, when it's like, I am upset and I don't want to be upset, and I want to understand why I'm upset, and like, you're having all of these thoughts. And the real kicker that made me speak to someone about it was, I was like, wait a second. I don't get bothered when I leave, my laptop on the bed the wrong way. But if someone else does it, then I'm like, oh my God, but it's the same laptop on the same bed. So what about that is bothering me? And so that's when I decided to reach out to a psychiatrist and just speak to someone about the things that I had struggled with since I was a kid. And not get like a diagnosis, not get told, like, not looking for a specific label to put on myself. And I
Right.
wasn't even looking at OCD at all. I didn't even know anything about it.
Sure.
And after speaking to a psychiatrist for a couple sessions, he started to identify. He's like, well, this sounds, maybe like you might have some compulsive like tendencies. And, by like the fifth appointment or something, he's like, I feel comfortable
Mhm.
prescribing stuff, like helping you with this. So yeah, long story, but that's kind of how I got to my diagnosis.
Oh, great story. Because how many people I hear all the time hide these, what they consider to be weird thoughts. No one else in the world has ever thought this before. I'm the only one. People feel alone. People feel isolated. And it sounds like you went through that also when you were younger.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had some really weird things that I was like letting bother me. And what's funny is some of the things that bothered me so much as a kid, like, still bother me today, but I'm able to work through it in a better way now.
Yes. And getting access to effective treatment is obviously so key in that situation. How did deciding to go to treatment change your life?
Oh my gosh, it with 360 is not the right 180. Um, it brought me
Yeah.
right back to the
Right
beginning.
back to where I was. Well, there
No,
we go.
no, it totally changed my life. I mean, like, I'm such an advocate, and especially with my friends and the people, specifically closest to me, I'm like screaming from the rooftops, like,
Mhm.
go speak to someone. Don't go on TikTok. Don't go self-diagnose yourself. That was like the last thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I went and I spoke to someone. And like, obviously having a professional tell you like, hey, you have OCD, you have ADHD, like it's not going to fix everything and it's not going to change your life overnight. But getting that diagnosis, oh my gosh, it was like, it almost, the OCD was more of a weight off my shoulders than the ADHD, because
Mhm.
the OCD was something that I'd really like, I don't know, it was just such odd things my whole life that I really like in the back of my head given myself a lot of like just like beating myself down over how stupid some of those things were. And I like cried when I got
Sure.
off the phone with my, when I got off the Zoom call with my psychiatrist, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like it was a weight off my shoulders. And now the best thing about getting a diagnosis, in my opinion, and speaking to someone professional, is that it allows you to give yourself grace on so many things. You know, you go about every day, and if you can't understand what you're dealing with, it's so frustrating and you take it out on yourself. But now being able to be like, okay, you know, I have OCD, I can recognize when I'm having an obsessive compulsive thought over something, and I can reframe it in my mind. And I do a lot of exposure therapy, and it has helped me so much just understanding a bit more about myself. There's still a lot of work you have to do, but
Well, you're speaking my language when you start talking about ERP, exposure and response prevention therapy. At first, obviously, for a lot of people, when we present that, they look at us as therapists. Think, you want me to do what? You want me to allow that to be there? What are you talking about? What was that like the first times, getting into this and then finally seeing the benefit of what true evidence-based treatment really does for
yeah.
OCD?
You know, it's so funny you say that because I reacted the same way. Like,
Of course you did.
because I went into my psychiatry appointments not even thinking about OCD. Like that was kind of just like a hee hee ha ha. Like I'm struggling with
Yeah.
this, but let's not touch on that because that doesn't really matter because I'm probably just
Mhm.
weird and like whatever. And I didn't even realize that was something I really had to like work on. And then when I started saying, oh, by the way, like I had this thought today and I had this issue today and this week this came up and whatever. Um, yeah, my psychiatrist was like, okay, you know, you should try. He basically was like, well, I feel comfortable putting you on medication because it seems like this is like a really big issue. And I was like, I really don't want to take medication for this personally. I'm not really a medication person.
Mhm.
And I just, especially with like everything else going on in my life, I just didn't want to have, you know, a
Yeah.
daily pill to think about. And I said, well, you know, I've lived with this for 28 years, 29 years. Like, let's see how I can do helping myself out without medication first. And
Mhm.
so that's when he was like, well, you could also do exposure therapy. And I had this really frustrating thought where I was like, I've lived like this my whole life, and I genuinely I can't think of a world where I don't live like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It didn't seem possible at all. I was like, you're telling me people don't have these thoughts and that I can train myself to not have them. Like that, it took away my personality almost, you know?
Mhm.
But I tried it, and oh my gosh, it was so frustrating the first couple days. But after that, I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. And now I do it literally every day. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love something you just said there because, again, I hear this all the time. People with OCD are shocked to hear that people without OCD don't spend all this time thinking about things the way people with OCD do.
Yeah, it's still very weird to me, but
Mhm.
would love to jump into someone's brain without OCD to see what it's.
Right, exactly. Uh, Now, at this point, you still live with OCD, which I think is the beautiful thing because sometimes people go into treatment and think, I don't ever want to have these thoughts or these images or these urges again, which we don't know how to do. We haven't figured that out in the science yet, how to stop a thought. But we
Yeah.
can definitely help people live with it. What's it like for you living with OCD and being on runways and doing DJ shows and all these things that you do?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surrounded by a lot of people a lot of my life, and a lot of
Mhm.
people, you know, that obviously live different than me, and some things that they do might like trigger an OCD thought or a tendency. But the last thing I want to do is make anyone uncomfortable for just being a normal human being. So it's definitely hard because it's like I'm constantly getting like all of my OCD triggers around me, but then I'm like, this is normal to them. I'm the one that needs to reel it in and realize that like I can do exposure therapy and not be so bothered by certain things. So like one of the things basically like as a kid, okay, don't laugh at me. Nobody laugh at me.
No judgment zone right here. So, yeah.
Okay, so ever since I was a kid, I was like highly afraid of ketchup and like red things.
Okay.
I'm actually wearing red right now, this is big for me.
That's big. Hey, A+ to you right today.
Right? But I would like actively avoid the color red like it was like the bubonic plague as a child. And if I would be at like, let's say all of our friends would go to like McDonald's back in the day and they had those little like ketchup little white circle packets, whatever, I would sit in the furthest corner from the person with the ketchup on their plate. I would tell myself like, do not, whatever you do not look at the ketchup. Like, do not look at their plate. Don't associate with it. Don't think about it, because I would start to make up these like horrible smells that didn't exist. And I would get nauseous and like everyone loves ketchup. And so here I am like acting like it's going to kill me in the corner. And I didn't want to tell anyone this because I'm like, it's ketchup. I obviously know it's not going to kill me, but like, I feel like it might. So I'm just sitting in the corner, like, everyone's having a good time. And I'm like trying to avoid the ketchup packet on the other side. So it's pretty ridiculous, but it's like still to this day, it is something very odd that I struggle with. And it's like ketchup or red drinks or red sauces. And like, I have to stay away from them. But I know that, I interact with a lot of people all the time. People are going to have ketchup on their burgers. People are going to be around it. And, I just have to live with it and give myself grace and be like, I kind of laugh at it at this point. And I've allowed myself to like laugh with others about it, and I feel like talking about it almost makes it easier just because it's like, I have this ridiculous thing and, just want to let you know. But yeah, living with OCD is definitely an everyday battle, but also realizing, not everything is so crazy as you think it is. It helps me a ton.
And the color, just going on the color red, what it could do for so many different people. One person may not like red because they think that's the color of the devil. Another person may not like it because that's the color of blood. Another person may not like it because I got ketchup on my hands one time. It was really sticky and I hated that feeling, right? 3 different people, 3 totally different reasons fearing the exact same thing, which is why when we're doing treatment for people, we really have to individualize it to the person.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know where it came from, but I have this weird thing about like open bottles, and I'm not a big like germ person. It's kind of funny. Like I'm very germy. Like I'll walk on the floor. I mean, I don't walk on the streets of New York barefoot, but I like to do hikes barefoot. And like, I'm not really, I lived in Hawaii for a couple years. So it's like, I'm always barefoot. People are like, oh my gosh, like how could you walk around your house barefoot, whatever. So it's like, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm really like pretty chill about it. But for some reason, open bottles and like when people put water in bottles that aren't typically supposed to hold water, like, it pisses me off so much.
So if I put water in my diet pop, you would be, that is forbidden, is what you're saying. Okay.
I wouldn't be able to look at it, like, because I'll start associating like scents to it, and like it's very weird. And like I love to drive and I love to take road trips, and it's, oh my gosh, it's so difficult when you've got like a car filled with people. And because I'm a very hospitable person, I love hosting people. But then this was also another reason why I realized I might have OCD, was because every time my family would come for the holidays, I'd host my family always during the holidays. Sure. And it would just be like a landmine of OCD, like just triggers around me. And I was like, this is affecting my family holidays, because it's like, you're surrounded by so many different people that live so many different ways, and you're just getting so bothered all the time. And I hated that feeling. So yeah, definitely practicing a lot of grace, a lot of like, let me just keep it chill. Cause the last thing that I want to do is just like get super annoyed at someone and they don't understand why, and it's because they put water in their Gatorade bottle.
Yeah. I I like that you keep saying the word grace. I talk about that with people, this idea that uh, OCD is relentless and will always get on you and find the flaw. And part of the treatment is just allowing for you to recognize that just because OCD says something doesn't make it true or real, and allowing yourself to live with OCD instead of having to fight it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, like it's an everyday. Um, I wake up every day and I have to battle my OCD. I've never tried medication. I don't even know what that life would be like, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like there's a part of me that appreciates the way that I am, and
Mhm.
the negative parts of it, the parts that I don't like, I feel comfortable working towards every day and just doing self-realization. And like even right now we just moved into this new apartment and I'm trying to get everything sorted, and it started to take that turn towards like just being obsessive about everything. And you know, it gets really crazy. Like if I'm it's kind of crazy because I love interior design, but then I go to a level where it's like if like the paint is chipped on the wall, like I can't sleep at night until like that paint is fixed. And I hate getting into those circles because it just never ends.
Right.
So working on, you know, just giving myself grace and being like, that cord is going to show behind the TV for the next 2 months. And like, I'm going to learn to let it go. I'm going to learn to let it go.
I've given homework to people of before you go to bed, I want you to take a plate out of one of your cupboards and just leave it on the counter. They don't like that.
No, no, that was the thing that like my psychiatrist was like, yeah, like I was like, my boyfriend keeps leaving, and he still does it. He still, I was like, my boyfriend keeps leaving like all the cupboards open, like he just won't close them all the way. And I was always like running around the house, like closing all the second I'd see them, I'd be like closing the cupboards. And they're like, well, why? What if you just left it open for like 5 minutes, and then you like timed yourself and you went back to it, and then you closed the cupboard? And I was like, oh my God, why?
The pain, the psychological pain of the whole
But now,
experience.
every single time I see a cupboard open, I look at it. I'm like, I'm going to decide to leave it open
That's
until the
awesome.
next time I come into the kitchen.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You are living a life of ERP. Congratulations. That's
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you.
I'm betting your followers, they've seen this, they reach out to you about things like this. We know that on average 2% of your followers will have obsessive compulsive disorder. And last I checked, you were 8 million followers. So that's a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
What kind of things do people ask you, and how do you encourage them to make sure they go do what's best for them?
I think a lot of people are afraid to like take that step and speak
Mm.
to someone. And, you know, even just in my inner circle, I see people like friends, family struggling with some of the same things that I am. And I'm like, guys, like, I know it's scary. It was very foreign to me to make that appointment with a psychiatrist. I'd never spoken to a psychiatrist in my life. I'd spoken to therapists, but no one that had been able to identify like what was the real root of the problem. And when you make an appointment with a psychiatrist, it can feel scary because it's like you feel like you're putting a label on yourself before you even get into the appointment. You're like, I feel like something's wrong with me. I must be this. I must be that. But it's totally normal to speak to someone about this. And if you're going to speak to someone about it, please speak to a professional, because someone that can understand the science behind it all is going to give you such like a really thorough diagnosis and a really thorough answer. And like just being able to like once a week or once a month come and have an appointment with someone and just be like, these are the things that I dealt with this month that I want to talk to you about because I have questions about it. I learned so much about myself in that process. Things that like I had never even thought about were just being unlocked in my brain. And that did so much for me, so much more than like medication could ever do. Like, for example, like I have a prescription for my ADHD, but like that
Okay.
prescription didn't fix my ADHD. If I would have just taken the prescription and not done the work, speaking to people and building a community and like seeking out, tips and tricks on how to live with these things, potentially it would have just gotten worse because medication is just, it's one tool, but it's not like the end all be all. It's not going to fix everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like anyone that is listening to this, if you feel like you have struggled with something all your life and it's unexplainable, please go speak to someone. Cause it's like, I just got to this point where I was like I'm a very, self-aware person and I always want to be my best self. And it just hit me where I was like, thank God I had this like self-realization where I was like, I've been trying to fix this about myself for 28 years and nothing has worked. So if nothing has worked, maybe it's time to speak to a professional,
Yeah.
It's like if I've tried everything since I was a baby and nothing's working, something has had to work by this point if I was a neurotypical person. And yeah, so then that's when I got so much relief. So yeah, definitely go speak to someone. It can definitely change your life. And like, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing weird about having a diagnosis of any kind. It's totally normal. And yeah, it will change your life.
There's also probably some of those people out there say, "Oh, I have a little of that too," and things like that. How do you use the platform to help educate people beyond? Yeah, we all have some quirks. Everybody does. Nothing wrong with those. But there's a difference between that and OCD and what it really does in people's lives.
Yeah, I think, that's why I wanted to avoid places like TikTok to go like answers because I mean, I don't really know what the landscape is right now, but a couple years ago when I was like really just at my kind of breaking point of like, I really want to fix this about myself, I would go onto TikTok and just so much misinformation about mental health and, neurodivergent diagnosis. Everyone was kind of just like, I can relate to that. So like this is that. And, obviously I have so many friends in my life that are like, I like, that's so OCD or like, yeah, I'm so OCD. So it's like, I just, before I even knew that I had this issue, out of respect, I never want to like self-diagnose myself or, say that I can, I have that too, when like, I really just don't know. So when I was going on TikTok and I was seeing so many things where it's like, if you like, don't brush your teeth at night, like you have OCD, I don't know. It's just like, and all the comments like, me too. So I don't know. I felt like that's the worst way to go because you never want to see one TikTok and then all of a sudden think you have something and then go down that rabbit hole and like you have something completely different, that could be really bad because then you spend the next, let's say, year or two, or maybe the rest of your life thinking that you have, XYZ and you're tackling a problem from that perspective, but you really have something else, which is a whole different way of tackling it. So yeah, I would say just like avoid TikTok and things like that for getting a diagnosis. But I feel like if you are, I think like the kicker is if you're struggling with something and it's like genuinely affecting your everyday life and it's like internally you feel like you're at a standpoint with it where like you've tried a lot of things and like you just do not understand, I think that's when you need to talk to someone. Obviously we all have to give ourselves grace when it comes to like, folding your laundry and it stays on your couch for a couple days. Like, we're all human. But I feel like
when are you at my house right now? Is that what you're
saying? Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like when you're really struggling with something, and it's like when you sit down at night and you're like, I really don't want to have this problem. Like I really hate this feeling. Go speak to someone, because like when I made that appointment with a psychiatrist, I was expecting to just get on the call and, at the end of it be like, oh, you're just living a normal life and you're just, getting a little
Mhm.
upset about things. And I would have been fine with that.
Yeah.
I feel like going into, just wanting to put a label on yourself is like probably getting bigger right now with just so many uh, videos online being like, if you have this, then you have this.
Sure.
Um, and I feel like just going into it and being like, you know what, let me just lay everything out there, what I'm dealing with. And maybe it's totally normal. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like that, relying on a professional to help the situation, because boy, you could take an online quiz for anything right now if you wanted to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do it just to see like what it, I'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, am I like, I don't know. It's like, are you Polish quiz? And then it's like,
Yeah, right.
you might end
What
up,
spirit animal are you today,
yeah,
or something?
yeah, you're 87% Polish. And it's like, you're literally not real.
Yeah, yeah. Now it means you're living your life, right? And people will say, well, how do you do it though? What if an OCD thought or an image or urge comes to you while you're DJing? How can you do both at the same time? What do you do? How do you do it?
Well, I feel like, how do I explain that? I feel like I'm very perfectionist and like I care a lot about the things that I'm passionate about. I think that's why I'm like in the position that I am. It's because like when I want something and I have like a drive for it, I just get it done. I'm kind of like known for that. That was
Mm-hmm.
like another thing. It was like that my whole life I've always like been able to accomplish and when I really want something, I get it done. And this was kind of like the personality I developed around my friends, where it's like, oh, Ava always gets it done, and like you can always rely on Ava to if you need, I don't know, a purple minivan delivered to your house in the next 5 hours. Like I'm going to find the purple minivan. Um, so I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's OCD or if that's just me being like super driven to do something or whatever. But I feel like if if the thing that I'm passionate about is bigger than the OCD
Yeah.
trigger, then I'm able to put it past me. So if I'm ever
Awesome. Okay.
DJing and this like horrible smell comes in the room
Mm-hmm.
that just like makes me like I'm very sensitive to smells. I'm not gonna like stop DJing because of that, because I'm like my drive to put on a good show and like be the best version of myself is bigger than the trigger. So I'm able to be like, okay, like I'm gonna lock in. I'm really gonna push this past me. But the second that show is over, the smell is getting eliminated like
Mm-hmm.
instantly. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a great example of you can have OCD but still stay focused and locked in, even though there's something else in there that's trying to grab your attention and scream in the back of your head, look at me, right? And
yeah,
it doesn't have to be the thing that takes over. And what a great lesson for people with OCD to know that you can live with OCD. It doesn't have to be in control of your life, but you can live with it.
yeah. And I mean that's a big part to exposure therapy, because it's like once you realize that that thing that you're putting so much weight on isn't so bad, um it really helps, like with the whole bottle thing. I used to go so crazy over that. Like i
Mm-hmm.
i wouldn't tell people, but internally I was like really fighting some demons. And after doing so much like exposure therapy with it, now I'm able to recognize it, acknowledge it when I walk in a room or when someone does it, but it's not gonna like kill me. I'm able to like I have different like steps before I really let myself go crazy on it, like opening a
Mm-hmm.
window or like just doing little things that can solve the problem for me and not make it such big of an issue. But that wouldn't have been possible without like really exposing myself to those things and figuring out different ways to approach it versus just the only way that I knew, which was to
Yeah.
like immediately eliminate the problem.
Yes, a life of avoidance and safety behaviors and reassurance and distraction is not a life that is easily lived. Even
Yeah.
though it might feel good in the moment, it's tough in the long term to keep doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
You look ahead now. I mean, here you are, that kid who was hiding these things in your head and didn't know what was going on. What's your feel about your future now that you've been through this and you can look ahead knowing that I'm still going to have those thoughts and everything, but does it feel much more wide open to you?
For sure. I mean, I I think the good thing is that the things that I really struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder are things that I have been struggling with since I was, as young as I had memories.
Yeah,
So the good thing is that, like, I don't think there's any new uh triggers coming up. It's kind of all around like the
sure.
same world. And so if I can make this much progress on my OCD in just the last, 2, 3 years of being diagnosed, there's a long road of like improvement to go, and like it's only going to get better the more that I work on it, and I work on it every day. So yeah, the future is bright. The future is bright.
Yeah, and that work on it every day really is a thing, because OCD is not going to give up. It's not going to take a day off. And so it means that we have to work with it. And sometimes, I'd be interested in your opinion on this. Sometimes people are frustrated by that. They're like, why do I have to keep working on this all the time? What would what have you done to kind of just keep yourself moving forward and working on it all the time?
Yeah, I think, obviously just being a little bit more okay with things and just giving
Mm-hmm.
myself like a bigger perspective on things, because it's like, like I said earlier, it's like the people around you don't know how affected you are about this. And instead of just being like very internal, where it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm so like upset over the way that they put their cup on the table, like oh my gosh, it's like one of the things that obviously helps me a ton besides exposure therapy is just like talking to people about it and like
Mm-hmm.
educating people about like what it's like living with OCD. And
Yeah,
I feel like my whole channel with My Life as Ava, people know me as like the person that can just talk about anything and be very like open and relaxed about talking about harder issues that I've dealt with. And likewise with my OCD, I realized that instead of just being like, I need to move this, I need to fix it, or I need to, internalize it, I find that it helps me a lot to just be like, hey, I struggle with OCD, and this is one of the things that bothers me. And I like to explain to people that are close to me, not like random people, but people that I feel comfortable with, to just educate them a bit about OCD. And I feel like there's a lot of like secrecy and like non-understanding about OCD, where people think, we're washing our hands all the time, or we're like cleaning our shoes when we get in the house. And, that's not at all what my life is like. So just being able to like educate my friends and family when something comes up, instead of being like upset at them, just being like, hey, it's super crazy, but like this is something that inside me I am really affected by.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's not going to necessarily change the way that they are. Like I live with my boyfriend every day, and he does things every day that I'm like, oh my gosh.
How do you do that? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But it's, but instead of approaching it like, oh my god, like why would you? Like I can tell the difference when something is like an OCD compulsive thing, or
Sure.
when it's just like being bothered by something.
Yeah.
And when I realize that it's an OCD thing, I think what helps me a ton is just talking through it and explaining how I feel. Like for example, yesterday my boyfriend was taking the trash out,
Hmm.
and um he had taken like I forgot what bottle it was. If it was like, I don't know. I think it was like a Gatorade, an empty Gatorade bottle or something.
Okay.
And he was recycling it, but we had a bunch of boxes that were like by the front door because we're moving, so we had a bunch of like brown
Oh,
boxes.
sure. Yes.
And then I had walked outside to walk my dog, and I come home and the Gatorade bottle is on the floor, empty. And I'm just like, okay, like in his mind, it's also recycling because it's a plastic empty bottle. But in my mind, that's a piece of trash, and now we live in a garbage can, and like, why
Mm,
is there a Gatorade bottle on the ground inside the house? Like,
hmm.
it should be in a trash bag to be recycled. But he's like, well, it's gonna get thrown away anyway, so let's just put it on the floor. And I walked in and I was like, this is like one of my biggest OCD triggers. It's the bottles and the trash like just on the ground and things. And it's out of place, like in the house. It's a piece of what's now going to be garbage on the floor. And instead of just like freaking out, I was like, hey, like, I understand that's recycling, but like, this is one of my biggest things that I struggle with. And it would have just helped me out if you just put that bottle in one of the boxes, like just kind of stuff it in the box so I don't have to come home to like garbage on the floor. And yeah, it was just one of those moments where I was like, okay, I could like freak out, or I could pick it up myself and throw it away and like internally just go crazy. But talking through it helped me just to explain myself a bit and be like, hey.
And that's great. And you know, I love that part of it too, because OCD isn't just going to affect the person with OCD. When you're in a couple, then OCD's the third wheel of the relationship sometimes, and it's always the uninvited guest in the home, you know. and
Oh,
and so, what was it like? And again, I'm just interested if you're willing to talk about it. I'd love to hear it. What was it like to introduce this to your boyfriend? Of, hey, by the way, along with me and all you get there, there's this other thing that comes into the relationship too.
yeah. Well, I mean, he had lived with me on and off for like years before I got the
Okay.
diagnosis. So at
Hmm.
this point, he'd already knew what he signed up for without knowing what he signed up for.
There we go. All right, there we
he, had, he knew my personality and he knew everything. But I think like one thing that my boyfriend really respects about me is like my drive and how much I get stuff done. And he always like acknowledges that. So, with that amazing drive also comes amazing OCD. And yeah, so when I got the diagnosis, he was the first person I told. He was home when I got off the call. And yeah, I was just really accepting. And, he's like glad that I got that. I guess closure is the wrong word, but like that, I don't know, realization or what.
Affirmation or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, then that was when the real work started,
Sure.
And I feel like he's probably very happy that I've been diagnosed with OCD because now I'm constantly doing exposure therapy around the house instead of getting mad. So,
Yeah. And then you get a dog, and last I heard, they shed and leave hair and things around the house too, right?
yeah.
They don't pick up after themselves.
Oh no, and I have a golden retriever and she sheds everywhere. She's a
Hmm.
shedder. Yeah. But yeah, yeah. And also like I'm low key allergic to dogs,
Hmm.
but obviously I just love dogs so much. So
There you go.
yeah, it's something I have to live with. The bed is constantly got fur all in
Hmm.
it. And I'm constantly waking up itchy. But when I tell people that, they look at me in horror. I'm like, what am
Yeah.
I gonna do? Get rid of my dog? No. I can deal with itching a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of things we can deal with, and you've today really shown everyone that you've learned how to live with the things that are in your head, and I think that that's a great inspiration for all of our listeners to know that OCD may be a speed bump, but it's not a brick wall, and it doesn't have to stop you from living the life you want to live.
For sure. Yeah. And, you know, like a lot of women get diagnosed a lot later in life. And so I don't want I know there's a lot of like um, women listening to this. And it's so important to speak to someone because like it's not always obvious. And OCD and also lots of neurodivergent disorders show up differently in women. So definitely go speak to someone. And yeah.
Ava, thank you so much for being here today. Any final words that you want to say to everybody who's been listening? Because I think you've said some great stuff so far, but I want to give you a little platform here at the end, if you like.
Thank you. No, I would just say, there's nothing wrong with being a little different. And um, OCD it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. There's some beauty in it. And I think just recognizing that you're a special person and you've got special ways of getting things done, and just realizing that life needs to be approached a little bit differently, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing or a bad way to live. You're just a little different, and life needs to be approached a little differently. And yeah, definitely don't freak out if you're dealing with anything.
Famous last words. Don't freak out.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, Ava, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you and see all of your great stuff?
Thank you so much. Yeah, everyone can find me at My Life as Ava. I'm on every platform. And yeah, come check me out.
Awesome. We will. Well, and thank all of you for listening once again to another episode of the Get to Know OCD podcast. I want to thank Ava, our guest today. It was such a lovely conversation. And thank all of you for listening. If you're interested in seeing more of the Get to Know OCD podcast, you can subscribe to the NOCD YouTube channel. Otherwise, be good to each other. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.